something based on an argument. I mean, I don't know about the Billy Myers case, but I sure know that my worldview had no room for UFOs that showed up like right in your face like that. I mean, okay, UFOs off there in those funny little photographs, you know, and you enhance them and you can barely see them, you know, all that. But right there, you know, no, I can't go there. So hoax. I believed all the hoax. Well, I don't know, but this was pretty powerful presentation we just heard. The evidence is not sufficient. Well, I don't think that's the central problem. I think you've heard a huge amount of evidence. You know this field very well. The evidence is overwhelming. Even the physical evidence is overwhelming, never mind the thousands of reports. But that again has to do with the worldview matter. Yeah, we should get more evidence. We should keep getting evidence, of course, but that's not the main problem. People say, oh, there's no evidence. You know, you hear that? Oh, there's no evidence. How many times have people said that to you? There's no evidence. They haven't looked. Or if they look, they don't see it. Mark Macy made the point. You remember he said, when he was talking about this extraordinary matter of these communications coming from the astral and ethereal dimensions, he said, for some people it doesn't matter how good the evidence is, it won't make any difference. Now, this is a little different. Our knowledge is insufficient and the available methods of study are inadequate. I wouldn't go that far, but I know there is something to this in the sense that I don't think, and I'll talk about this more, I don't think we have yet developed a way of knowing that has to do with something like this. In other words, we're okay about physical evidence if we know a good deal about that, but when it comes to something that seems to cut across all our disciplinary boundaries, particularly when we're dealing primarily with human experience, as well, of course, as the physical phenomena. But there's a tremendous amount of this that has to do with reports, human experiences. How we know, our ways of knowing, need to be refined and developed further. Can we get the... Yeah. Maybe it's happening, but it's too frightening to think about. Now, I run into that all the time. Okay, you know, I can buy it, but I don't want to think of it. That's too upsetting. That could be happening, a sense of loss of control, a helplessness. One of my colleagues was very open to this, a psychiatrist named Bill Waterman, invited me to a fancy dinner in which gourmet cooking went on. A lot of Boston politicians there, and you know how they want to be friendly with everybody, and well, I guess every place, but particularly in Boston. And one of them, I got to talking with him and a little bit, and he said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I work with people who've had encounters with beings, extraterrestrial beings." There wasn't even a moment of politeness. He turned around, said, "That's too far out," and walked away. He didn't want to hear anything about it. He didn't care about my vote or my constituency or anything else. So, I mean, part of sanity, I guess, is knowing who to say what to at what time, but I didn't care in this situation. If it's true, we humans are less in control of our destinies than we like to believe and are thereby demoted in the cosmic hierarchy. I think my prejudice shows through on this one. Yes, I think this is a very big one. I think that this is a huge, I don't like to use psychiatric terms, but I will in this context. It's a huge narcissistic injury to us. That we aren't maybe the smartest, the most powerful, whatever, that beings can come and go and take us, or that they can whiz in and out of our airspace, sometimes not even show up on the radar. I mean, it's just an insult to what we think we do best, which is technology, right? I mean, it gets us right where we live. The phenomenon breaks the game. That is, it threatens virtually every human vested interest. Now this is fundamentally important. We've heard about the shadow government in the Jonathan Reed case. If you don't believe the Jonathan Reed case, take the one you just heard about Virginia and Brazil and the U.S. government, Brazilian government's collaboration there to intimidate, threaten, not let this information get out. And in the last talk you've been hearing about the power greed that goes on and the threat that this is to the power structure as it is, to the financial institutions, to practically every institution loses its dominance. It's as if the whole church of science, of government, of the economic system no longer is the dominant force on the planet, and the resistance to this, the violent resistance to this is we have to really pay attention to it and not be afraid, but be strategic. We lack a philosophical framework for thinking about something which manifests in our world but seems not to be of it. Now this is a subject that I'm very interested in, and I think many people are. We're pretty good in understanding the physical world, and we're, psychologists, psychiatrists, have learned a lot about the psyche. But the Western enterprise over the last several centuries has more or less successfully, not in reality, but as a disciplinary device, has separated the physical world, the material world, from the unseen world, the deeper world, the implicate order, to use David Bohm, physicist's term. And this phenomenon doesn't seem to respect that boundary. It seems to somehow cross over. It's some kind of third realm. It's not entirely in the physical world. It's not entirely in the non-physical world. It's in both at the same time. It's sort of paradoxical. We're not very sophisticated about thinking in those paradoxical terms, and I'll be coming back to that again. All right, what further do we need to know? Now here, when I go through this, I'm not saying everyone has to know all of this. I mean, surely I don't know all the things that I'm going to lay out. I just think this is what's relevant to knowledge in this field. How do we better investigate the physical reality of UFOs, abductions, and related phenomena? Well, you've heard some really good work on this. There's a lot more that could be done. There's a need for people from different disciplines, physics, psychology, anthropology, history of science, getting together to see if they can understand this more comprehensively, so it isn't seen as just operating in a single discipline. Now, what do we consider to be physical evidence, and what are our standards of evidence? Now, this is the one they really tried to, really hit me on very hard at Harvard, and there's a great deal of evidence around, say, physical cuts, marks. Angela Thompson-Smith talked about the circle of little lesions that appear. But I can't, as a physician, present that to a medical audience, because if there's a dermatologist in the crowd, you can imagine the questions they're going to ask. The self-infliction and mosquito bites and whatever. It's not true. They're wrong. But it won't pass as evidence. So a lot of what will pass for us won't there. And I don't know what to do about that except to be as scrupulous and overwhelming. And what was the term that Michael Horn used? It was that we have to reach an almost higher level. It's a Caesar's wife kind of thing. It has to reach a level where there's just no denying the power of the evidence. We can't do controlled experiments. The whole phenomenon won't stay still for us to, take an alien and sit down and 5 aliens in a row and see how they behave.